Building a competitor to Uber Eats is a big task, but we were able to patent an algorithm which does matchmaking in buildings so they can deliver food faster. And we were actually able to protect that for that company, and they were able to license that out to other organizations that also compete with Uber. In a few years, we're going to have a big focus and companies will have monopolies on data because that's what's used to train the AIs and the automation tools and the pipelines. And without data, AI is useless. Americans hire Canadians because it's more affordable and getting as top tier talent as American hires. American businesses will continue to hire Canadian talents. At the same time, we're continuously hiring Canadian talent because we just believe in our economy and our country as a whole.
Good day and welcome to the Wealthy Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Bob Gauvreau. It is a pleasure to have you here with us today. I do have a guest with me today from the tech space, and I will introduce him in just a moment. But before I jump into that, I just want to remind you that this is the place where we dissect the elements that contribute to entrepreneurial success, from mindset and leadership to profits and revenue. Once again, the Wealthy Entrepreneur Podcast. This episode is titled Beyond the Code, Scaling a Mission-Driven Tech Company. Really interesting, especially the way that the world is going right now. Knowing that North America has been a little bit behind the world as far as innovation and productivity, specifically Canada as well, and connecting with tech companies that have had success and innovative ideas of how we as entrepreneurs can utilize technology and innovation to enhance our productivity, enhance our efficiency, and continue to lead our industries and our organizations across the country is very powerful. Really excited today to introduce one of my guests. His name is Mathew Mozaffari. He is ultimately a founder of an organization called Spear Technologies, and he's done a bunch of other things. And I'm going to get Mathew to share his journey. The reason that we connected with Mathew was that their company was actually number 42 on Canada's fastest growing companies list, according to the Globe and Mail, which is pretty powerful, and an organization that's having a lot of growth. So let's talk about what that growth looks like, how you scale that by putting in the right systems, effectively hiring people, because we know as you scale, the faster you scale, the more challenges you can potentially have. So I want to give you a brief introduction of who Mathew is and what he does. So Mathew has spent 9 years in the technology sector building mobile, web, and infrastructure for institutions, with notable awards, including being honored as a top 30 developer under 30 in Canada and representing Canada entrepreneurship at the G20 Summit. Mathew believes technology is an art because it does not restrict us to tangible reality. He taught this belief through his involvement with the United Nations Development Program and his efforts on the EU's Fly Forward 2020 initiatives. He's currently the founder and advisor, as I mentioned, at Spear Technologies and the Chief Technology Officer at Grata Technologies. Once again, Mathew and his team have been extremely successful, highly ranked as one of Canada's most fastest growing organizations. And I think there's a lot that we can continue to learn about the challenges that people face in this space, in technology, but also in growing an organization. So I'm really excited to welcome Mathew into the podcast today to share his insights with us. All right, everybody, I'm really thrilled to bring Mathew in here. And before you get started, just want to share my respect and admiration for you and what you've created, which I know you're going to share. But the reason that we sort of connected is we've both been on the fastest growing companies list. Now, your team has been number 42 in the previous year, which is a huge success and really an acknowledgement for all of the value that you and your team bring to the market and the impact that you guys have. So congratulations on that. But really, to get started, please share with us how this journey began for you and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much for the time, and congratulations to you and your team as well. It's a big honor to be on the same list, and it's amazing to be speaking with someone that's been on the list for countless years now. So congratulations. I mean, myself in a nutshell, everyone has their own journey as they build a business. And I'm honored to say that I did it by being weird and eccentric and trying different things. And that's kind of summarized my life in a way. So brief snapshot, I started in the technology sector by just building mobile apps. I studied computer science So I have a computer science background. I studied at TMU, back then Ryerson University. I ended up gaining an interest for software because I was always very artistic. You can see from the paintings I have and some of the pop culture I have around. You should see my house. I got paintings all over the walls. I enjoy art quite a bit. I enjoy art, and it allowed me to get very creative. And I actually realized that artistry allowed me to be very analytical. And I'm very lucky that I got to learn about how I learned best early on in my life. And that's a sense of privilege in itself. But I realized that I enjoy building things, but I wanted to do it in an analytical sense. And that artistry and painting, drawing, cooking, all of that contributed towards being creative. And with software engineering, I realized that I wasn't limited to my physical life and the physical reality. You could build whatever you want with software. And that's what really catapulted me into the industry. I ended up working on some hardware engineering. My father is a hardware engineer by practice, and I realized software was the right way to go. So went into that, ended up building an app that allowed you to play poker, just random games. And then one day I was in a clinic because I had strep throat, and there was a big delay on my side. So there was a big delay in the clinic. And what I realized was that it would be really cool if I could have some transparency towards the wait times. Ended up building an app for this, and the app ended up taking off, long story short. So after about 6 months of development, the app ended up getting over 30,000 monthly active users. And what was magical about the app was that I was pinging MAC addresses, which at the time was a bit of a gray area. Like you weren't really allowed to do that, but I experimented with it and it worked. I found the proper and legitimate way to do that because I was earlier in my career. And after 1 year, the app had over 100,000 monthly active users. Long story short, got purchased by the Keenan Research Center, which is part of St. Michael's Hospital. And that app ended up throwing me into the industry. And not only did I have some capital, very minimal, but some capital to work with, but it also gave me reassurance that what I'm doing is not necessarily right, but it's something that produced something valuable. And I was really curious about why the app got purchased. And in hindsight, it really got purchased for scraps and parts. They really didn't care about the front end. But what was magical was that they cared about the way I was detecting devices in a vicinity. And that technology was something that they ended up protecting and building out further. And that really inspired me because I wanted to learn how to build and notice those gold nuggets in code and in software to help companies get patents, because that leads to acquisition strategies in the future. That leads to revenue streams that people didn't even know they could unlock. And more importantly, this allows you to license your work out. And that's really what got me into Spear years later. So I decided to build out practices that could be followed for people and companies to get patents, to get licensing agreements, and to build their own SDKs out in a faster and iterative approach. So that way you're not burning large amounts of capital when you're trying to release apps to the market.
That's super interesting. And I know really little about what it is that you are talking about and how to do that, right? I just don't have that artistic, innovative side, but I do work with a lot of people who are extremely excited about everything that you just talked about. And, thinking about where the world is going, technology is not going behind us. It's definitely leading where we're going. Can you walk me through a little bit about Spear and how that really kicked off and sort of where you started and where that business is now? Because I know you were just sharing with me earlier, you've got multiple locations and it's really taking off.
Yeah, totally. So it turns out that hypothesis was correct, right? Like building software that can be protected and be protected in all of North America has value for people. And that's what is the secret to how we've scaled. So I ended up being the only engineer initially, but then I ended up bringing on a team member who's still with us today, Karan, who was our first hire as a contractor initially, and then built out the team with incredible people like Kartike and Stephanie, who's our chief technology officer, chief strategic officers, and just continue to grow with great people. We started at 0 people. Right now, we're about 35 full-time employees with about 15 contractors, which we're in the process of bringing in-house or full-time. We currently have an office in Toronto and in New York, and we're currently listed under 35 patents. So we've been able to not only build patents and bring it to life for people and companies, we've been able to work with incredibly large influential figures over the last 3-4 years, some who I can mention, some who I can't name drop, unfortunately. And it's just been great because we see people in industries where they're trying to compete with Uber Eats. And obviously, building a competitor to Uber Eats is a big task. But we were able to patent an algorithm which does matchmaking in buildings so they can deliver food faster. And we were actually able to protect that for that company. And they were able to license that out to other organizations that also compete with Uber. And that's just an example of how a patent can convert into such a important strategic piece of leverage. And it's allowed us to scale to 35 employees, 40 something all in staff, and have multiple offices.
Which is super cool. Now, before we hopped on, I was checking out your website, and like for me, I'm like, it seems like you guys do a lot, right? And like you do have a lot of different services, product offerings. I believe I saw that you did some work with Air Canada as a bigger sort of name. Can you just sort of walk me through, how it started with some sort of innovative tech and how it's expanded into multiple solutions and services?
Totally. So one of the first products that we worked on was a dealership platform. It would use OBD2 devices to track vehicle locations. That's basically a fancy way of saying you plug in a device into your car and it tracks your location. It helps with insurance rates. It has all of these other perks. Now, when we built this out, we ended up realizing that we could protect this work and we ended up patenting the work. And we've been able to license that out to dealerships, to fleet management companies like truckers that deliver goods across the country, and also use it in mechanic shops. That was our first stab at building a patent after the acquisition of the healthcare platform, and we were able to license that work out for ourselves. So not only did we have 5K a month coming in as MRR just passively, but that gave me enough of confidence to hire someone at that salary of 5K. So we just used it, gave someone that pay, and said, "Hey, help us build this out further." And we just continue to scale out the business with that strategy. So we don't own every patent that we work on, obviously, but the patents we were able to own, we were able to license out. And with every license we got, with that consulting fee that you charge with as a regular company for time and materials, we were able to bring in a healthy amount of revenue to scale the organization, but also have monthly recurring revenue through the licensing approach. And that would strategically position us to have a very clear roadmap of when a contract would wrap up. When would this monthly recurring revenue end? When would we be able to start licensing out work so we could plan out our hiring pipeline and strategy? And we've just continued on that path and just continue to double down on this model.
Yeah, and so you sort of briefly mentioned at the start, analytics, business analytics is something that you enjoy. Obviously, building out the model, looking at the MRR, very future focused. Where is it that you plan on taking this business going forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something I talk to the team about often. We are in a very interesting intersection where we can either scale this up to 500 employees because we've just proven our corner in the market and we're just very confident with that angle, or we could be set up for acquisition in the next few years. We are definitely leaning towards the scale up because we've just proven that ecosystem. We have great internal processes, an incredible sales team, and we're just able to leverage RFPs, government contracts, traditional consulting approaches to scale up consistently. And with that in mind, we're really prioritizing the growth of the company day to day, but large scale, we're definitely thinking about that intersection point because we think we're in that range of that intersection of scale up growth or acquisition, but we don't know yet. That's something that we're still figuring out. What I know for sure is that the team is continuously pursuing government contracts and just bigger picture goals like just cash injections into the company to help scale up the teams to deliver more deals on the table.
No, that sounds fair, right? And there's just so many variables we're finding even across all markets right now. With elections, Canada, US, bumps and bruises along the way. Is any of that impacting you guys? And more so, I'm thinking of it from a technology standpoint. Canada, as one, has sort of been behind on the productivity scale in comparison with other global leaders. And just looking to see, is some of this disruption impacting that? Like, is it harder to find those contracts or is it the opposite? Is it easier than ever because we know we need to invest in it?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have American and Canadian partners that we work with, so it hasn't impacted us. However, I think we're still early into the impact. It should impact us. I'm expecting it to, but I believe that Americans hire Canadians because it's more affordable and you're getting as top tier talent as American hires. So I think American businesses will continue to hire Canadian talents. At the same time, we're continuously hiring Canadian talent because we just believe in our economy and our country as a whole. On top of that, while Americans are hiring Canadians, it has made it trickier because it reduces our talent pool that we're able to hire from. But it's also given us different advantages in a strange way as well, because I know that a lot of Canadian government grants and government contractor opportunities that have completely isolated the Americans from being able to hire or apply or pursue those opportunities, which has given us an advantage. Now, I don't sense that this is going to be a long term disparity between Canadians and Americans with the tariffs in place. I'm hoping that will all reduce over time and be alleviated. But I think that we've been in a similar position as we were 5 years ago or 10 years ago, where Americans hire Canadians. We continue to hire Canadians here, but government grants have just been reduced for Americans, which has worked to our advantage in an interesting way.
Yeah. So aside from, these challenges and today's, along this journey, I'm sure you've had some challenges that you had to overcome. Are there any that are top of mind where you're going, oh yeah, I remember that we had to go through that and it was a challenge, but this is how we solved it?
Yeah. I definitely say I'd say the hiring, like recognizing great talent is very important, but also recognizing where someone can fit is very important. We went through cycles where 6, 7 years ago, I had imposter syndrome, and that would bleed into the rest of the team because I would go, I don't know if I'm the right person to lead an organization. And my doubts would subconsciously bleed into the rest of the team about whether or not I am the right leader for the organization or whether they are good enough to be in the organization. Naturally, that's just part of the life journey that people go through. You build your confidence, you understand your corner, and we're really good at what we do. I'm also very good at what I do in the organization, but building my own confidence and my foundations have allowed me to recognize great talents. And if someone isn't performing well, it's allowed me to understand where they could fit best, because it's very unrealistic to think that someone is just really bad at what they do and slapping them with a label of, hey, you're not good and you can't be in this line of work is a very unfair assessment of a person's skill set. We've not only had the opportunity to build our resources, but build our foundations to understand we can invest in this person in this way and leverage people for the right reasons in the right portions of the company. And that was definitely a big problem in the first like 2 years, I'd say, of the organization. But since 2019, I mean, we've started to move away from that, and we know where people excel, and we've just accepted we are a sink or swim type of culture because of our company, and because we, at the end of the day, we are smaller and we need the right people. And if they aren't the right fit, we try to figure out where they can excel. And if they can't excel in that space, then they're just not a good fit at our organization. That was definitely the biggest like people management issue, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. And truthfully, to between 2019 and now, the work environment globally has changed. The expectations of employees to employers has changed definitely. So to take some pressure off you, it's definitely an across the board sort of challenge that we're all recognizing, right? That the world has changed and we need to adapt to it. And if we don't adapt to it, then we're not going to succeed. So it sounds like you've done that in a great way. Thinking too of your business and the growth that you've had, being an innovative company, thinking that you're smaller maybe with respect to some of your larger competitors that are in that space. What is your sort of strategic position? Are you very much a customized, hey, we're going to come in and work with you to build what it is that you want, versus sort of a cookie cutter, here's all the different solutions? Is that how you guys approach your space?
Yeah, definitely. To distinguish ourselves, we've been able to build out a few pillars. We've built out a funding network. We've built out a network for our patents where we're able to buy, sell, and build and procure our own patents. And then finally, the third pillar, which is for most consulting companies, It's the ability to develop great quality work. That's really what we thrive on. And those are really where the three pillars come in. On top of that, we have a fourth that we don't really mention often, but it comes as you work with us. It's the experiential based development. And what I mean by that is really what you just described, where we come in, the team is living and breathing the product. It isn't like a product that you mark up by 50% margin and bill hourly for the login page, but someone forgot to build the sign up page and no one can build an account now, so people can't access their accounts. No, we completely avoid those traditional levels of thinking, and we try to build our teams to be incredibly dynamic. So every dollar that goes into the company, you're able to claim 70, 80% of that dollar back through our funding network, get a patent, which should cover the other 20 cents of that dollar that you invest, and then finally gain profit from every dollar through our networks that we're able to leverage and through the traditional consulting development model that we follow. In short, we're able to leverage some VCs that we have personal relationships with. Even besides VCs, I hate throwing that word around, but even besides that, we have two family offices that we have strong relationships with to help leverage and build funding. So you can have a debt facility or some sort of investment round. And then besides that, we have relationships with grant and subsidy delivery organizations within Canada, but we can also leverage all the patents we need. So that's really what's allowed us to define our corner and not only survive, but excel in this industry.
And so I saw some language that you guys use as well, which I think is really important in today's climate as well, which I think will be a really successful form of language for you guys in the next year or two going forward. Using tech for social good. Can you explain that and what you mean by wanting to continue to innovate for the greater good of the globe and the communities and everyone you work with?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we're building software, we're also auditing the organizations we work with. We don't just accept a contract because we need to accept a contract. We do not accept an opportunity because we need to. We focus on their potential. And by potential, I don't just mean, hey, they have a lot of cash, let's work with them. That potential goes far beyond just the financial aspect, even though that is very important to flag. We focus on organizations that are willing to risk 30 cents on every dollar for innovation, like true innovation. And what I mean by that is risking 30 cents from every dollar, maybe for a 3-month period, to experiment to get a patent. Because not only will they benefit from that, but others will benefit from that. Because if we're able to get a patent, we've built something novel. If we can build something novel, we can release a white paper. If we release a white paper, this will be a blueprint for others to do something similar. And that to me is contributing to social good. We're contributing to our technology community internationally. And it also allows us to contribute to the organization in an isolated manner. But besides that, I mean, every product we try to build focuses on their industry. So what that means is that a founder goes into being an entrepreneur because they might want to make money and have a strong living, but they also want to build something that will help others. So naturally, we audit the morals and ethics behind that. And we also try to determine how much opportunity is in this product. And if there is, then we ensure that one of the criteria is to appease a community, whatever community that might be. And that's really what we define by social good.
No, which makes sense. And again, I think even just that language right now, everybody's looking for that. It's like, okay, where's the betterment of the world? We want to work with people who just want to be better, make the world better, get rid of the fear, the hate that's seeming to be spreading. So I love that. So definitely keep that up.
Yeah, I do want to also mention that, funny enough, our logo is a plus symbol. And as cliche as this may sound, the plus represents adding value. And this leads into our organization. If you're coming into the company and you can't operate as a catalyst, that's a word we throw around often. If you can't operate as a catalyst, give someone a new idea, inspire them to think differently, no matter how simple the idea may be or ridiculous the idea may be, then you're probably in the wrong space. You probably shouldn't be at Spear, because we want our team internally to think of unique ideas, and that will extend into the partner relationships that we build. And if it doesn't extend internally, then you can't sell it either. It won't work. It won't fly.
So the interesting sort of segue into one of my other questions for you, like building and scaling a tech company at the speed that you guys have, again, being recognized as number 42, fastest growing company in Canada. How do you ensure that you continue to focus on the creative side and and that effective side versus, holy shit, we're growing too fast. Things are falling apart. How do you keep that focus?
That's a really good question. And we're figuring that out. Because we have had things blow up in the last 15 weeks where we've generally been like, holy shit, this is awful. Like, why did we make this person responsible for this? Or why did we move this person away because the other person couldn't complete that other thing? And at the end of the day, it falls on my shoulders. Like, I take extreme accountability. It's part of our values as well. But the beautiful part is that we've been able to figure it out very well. And there are scenarios where we've had to bring in external contractors to help organize some of the pipelines and introduce some automations, introduce some processes. And I mean, one topic I'll raise is AI. It's thrown around often, but we've been able to leverage AI to help automate a lot of customer journeys that we wouldn't necessarily have had 6 years ago. For instance, like tracking hours, accurate timesheets, ensuring that that's all submitted by the end of the month. We have 3 people managing all of that. And with their automations, it's been able to relieve pressures on their end so they can prioritize other tasks in the organization. So it's really like about blending technology with the identification of a problem. And I'm really good at finding out where problems exist.
So, and speaking of AI, so what does, the incorporation, it sounds like internal processes, support efficiency, client service, likely, a better customer journey. How is AI going to influence where you guys go in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, with AI, we've been leveraging it externally for a lot of the partners we work with, especially because some of them have an agenda to raise money. So they want to plug in AI, or some of their investors want to feel safe with their money. So they say, hey, we want AI, whatever it may manifest into, just throw it in. So we've been on both sides of the spectrum externally. It's naturally educated us on the internal processes. We currently use a lot of automations, not necessarily just AI, but a lot of automations in the company to help improve processes that are menial, trivial. No one should be doing them. But on the external side, we've been leveraging AI to not only support the engineering developments, but to support us with the way that we audit our code. For instance, instead of having 4 engineers review a single code base, we now have AI agents which audit our code for us, raise any boilerplate basic red flags, and then our team do the deeper dive into the code. AI is naturally supplementing a lot of work for very junior and rudimentary skill sets, as every industry has seen. And it's allowed our teams to speed up our processes and reduce our workload.
It's interesting. So we work closely with an organization called Clio. I don't know, they're a software company in Toronto. I think $4 billion valuation as well. Pretty cool. Anyway, their annual event, their CEO, Jack Newton, came out and said, speaking to the professional services world, specifically the lawyers, to say AI is not going to replace lawyers. AI being used by law firms are going to replace those firms that don't, right? And I think that's exactly what you're saying too. The supplementary support and efficiency of being able to gather information and create efficiencies really is powerful. And we do all really need to embrace it, right?
100%, 100%. It's not about the tool existing. It's about how you use it. And in a few years, we're going to have a big focus, and companies will have monopolies on data, because that's what's used to train the AIs and the automation tools and the pipelines. And without data, AI is useless. So you focusing on building your foundations, your skill sets, and your knowledge to translate it into the AI bots that are out there or the tools that exist is what makes you powerful. So you have to hop on that bus or you miss it.
That's it. And I don't think at this point, I think all of us need to be very hyper aware that we don't want to be the only person not on the bus, right? This has been, Mathew, this has been awesome. Looking maybe to ask you one last question, specifically around, entrepreneurship. And, we all know that it's a bit of a grind. Most days I love it. Some days I hate it, but it fuels me, right? And it's exciting. It's, really for me, it's sort of become part of who I am as an individual, but wondering what maybe your top 3 pieces of advice for entrepreneurs that are looking to launch and scale a new business, maybe even specifically in the tech space, if you want to jump in there, what would those be?
Totally. I would probably recommend tools right off the bat. I'd recommend make.com, and We're not affiliated, just to be clear. Make.com, any AI automation tool, whether it's OpenAI, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, BotPress, whatever those tools are, just using that, someone with no coding experience can probably spin up a very cool application that solves problems for people. We are seeing a big wave of prompt engineers as well. There are jobs where people are hired just to educate the AI well. So anyone that's trying to get into the technology sector, start with the low hanging fruit, like the AI prompt engineering, learn how to build an automation on make.com or Zapier. Using that, you can really build a strong foundation on how to use API keys, what tokens are, how to connect different third party platforms. And you can already probably build out your own tool just on a front end, like a very basic tool to kickstart your technology career. Besides that, upskilling is very important. AI is only coming after, at least right now, it's only coming after very basic skill sets, and it improves and makes skilled people that much more skilled. So if you are a basic engineer, you're new to the sector or basic in the design space, and you want to go from junior to intermediate, you can use AI to help upskill yourself. But that also requires you to learn transferable skills. So learn how to communicate better, learn how to understand and distribute knowledge to different teams well, learn how to design, pick up courses on LinkedIn or on udemy.com. That's where I got started to just learn about technology. And you'll see that AI can upskill you once you have that foundation. So you'll have a competitive advantage in the market.
I love that. Really great insights for sure. Thinking of, maybe I'll try and pull one more out of you related to your team. So if you've got somebody who's starting out and looking to build their team, now that you're looking back in it and going, oh yeah, we did some things right, we maybe did some other things not right, what would be your one piece of advice for growing and scaling a team?
I'd probably say like hire fast and fire fast. I really believe in that. I just, it's like deep down, like that's what I believe in. If someone's a good fit, they'll be a good fit. If they aren't, they won't be. And humans are very obvious. Like we tell people who we are by speaking. Unless you're like a pathological liar, that's a different story, but that's a niche community of people. But people tell you who they are on the first day you meet them. And if something's off, they're telling you that something's off without them even speaking it in, like just saying it flat out. So really take those hints. And that's really what we've had to do. And we've learned the hard way. And I think it's very important for people because great people make they make up the company. And the same reason we spoke about earlier, where we win these awards, it's because of those people, the great people. And the people that aren't the best for the organization, they deter from those awards. So it's at the end of the day, it's the people that make the company.
100%. Mathew, founder and CEO of Spear Technologies. Where could people find you and your organization the best?
Yeah, I mean, you could find us on spear.io, so speer.io. You can find me on TikTok. We have almost 100,000 followers there at tiktok.com/Mathew Mozaffari. Actually, it's Spear Tech, I believe. Either way, search it up. You'll probably find it. You can also find us on Instagram at Spear Tech.
Excellent. And we'll track all those down and we'll include those links in here for anybody who'd like to check out Mathew. Mathew, appreciate your time, my friend. I know it's very valuable. And once again, congratulations on your success. I'm very excited to watch where you and your organization go to next.
Yeah. Robert, thank you so much for the time. Congratulations on your team's success. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. And for everyone watching, this is the Wealthy Entrepreneur Podcast. We are on a mission to empower entrepreneurs with the financial confidence to succeed in their business and be empowered with the right financial information to make informed decisions so that we can change the world together. If any insights that Mathew has shared today have really resonated with you, or you feel like there's someone who could benefit from hearing some of the tools and tips that he's shared, feel free to share this out. Again, we're here to empower as many entrepreneurs globally as we possibly can. If there's any comments you would like to leave, please do so. Give us a like, give us a follow. We want to make sure that you see the episode coming out next week. So once again, everybody, thanks for joining me today. I'm Robert Gauvreau, your host of the Wealthy Entrepreneur Podcast. We'll see you next time.